Welcome to this week's episode of Jewish Money. I am here with
Steve Rappaport.
Steve Rappaport, my fellow neighbor here in Telstone. Steve started his life in America, I believe, right?
Correct.
He grew up in America, got married in America,
Correct.
and worked for 10 years, he told me, in America.
More actually. But okay.
More years
Correct.
in America. And then he made Aliyah. He moved here to Israel and has been living here ever since.
1976.
1976, he moved to Israel. I was not born yet at that point, believe it or not. How old do you think I am?
I wouldn't say.
Take a guess, come on.
34, 35.
I'm 41.
Really?
All right, I got 6-7 years there. So you moved here in 1976 and been living here ever since, mainly here in Telstone, right?
Correct.
So the main question I want to ask today is really, it's called Jewish Money. I want to talk about you had a business in America, had a business here for many years. How do they compare? How does the business world compare in America to your experience in the business world here? And maybe just get into details. What did you do in America? What did you do here? And maybe we'll get into more detailed questions as we go through it. But so what did you do in America? What were you working were employed as, in America?
Okay, first of all, I have an academic background. I went to Columbia College. I did some time in Boston at Harvard. Blah blah blah. And we call it here a chochi, a monthly bus pass which got me onto the bus and train. And I did a little teaching in America, and
Wait, so you went to Columbia and Harvard, and you did teaching?
And I got a master's degree in teaching and blah, blah, blah. I taught some high school. And I found, though, that the kids made me nervous. Yeah.
You did teaching in Jewish schools or public schools?
No, public school in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
What type of courses did you give?
Social history.
History.
Anyway, so once I saw that really wasn't for me, I started looking around. I answered an advertisement to be a stockbroker. Not that I knew much about the market, but it looked interesting. I had to take a course. I took a speaking course and blah, blah, blah.
Speaking course for the stock market?
For how to speak to people.
Oh, okay, I see. All right.
And I landed a job. And, every Sunday, the company I worked for put in a full-page ad in the business section in the New York Times, and on Monday they would give us leads.
What was the name of the company?
Hirsch and Company.
The Jewish company?
Not particularly.
Okay.
But it was bought out by a larger company, and then that's the way it was in Wall Street. So I got a job. I had no clients, but every Monday I got leads from the advertisement that the company put in the New York Times, and I slowly developed, Baruch Hashem, a very big business. I still remember to this day. I had a client named Schwartz. And he bought a whole combination of stuff, and all of a sudden I find myself making $10,000 by pushing a piece of paper across the desk. After that, we bought a house in Staten Island.
Wait, what were you doing exactly? You were trading stocks? What was your company involved in?
We were trading stocks.
Yeah.
All kinds of stories.
No, but I'm saying you said you got $10,000 contracts across your desk.
Yeah.
What type of contract was this?
I sold a block of stock, which included bonds and convertible bonds and other features.
What year was this?
1960, the end of 66. 1966. And,
So you're like 70 years old.
1966, I was 24 years old.
Okay, so
And
how old are you exactly? Just
now
so
I'm the 80.
80. And I know, all right, you should live until
Yeah, I
120.
tell everyone I'm on the '08.
You
So then...
tell everyone you're 08? What does that
yeah,
mean?
if you turn the numbers around, you'll see that I'm 80.
All right, go.
So
What is 08?
one story still sticks in my mind. I got a call from Detroit from someone who actually his wife had been friendly with my wife, and he said, Steve, I have a block of stock that I have to sell for Joe Puglisi, and we can't do it in Michigan. So right away I started getting a little nervous. Why can't you do it in Michigan? But anyway, I said, let me speak to Joe Puglisi. Okay, he gets on the phone, and we're chatting, and then he tells me something. He said, Steve, some of my best friends are Jews. Well, at that moment, I knew the guy was out to get me, but really big time. So I said, Joe, yeah, I'll tell you what, Joe, send me the securities. I'll see what I can do. So next day I get special delivery, and this huge envelope, and there are the securities. I send them down to my legal department, and they send them back. They say, Steve, there's nothing written on the securities. They look clean. I said, wow. I said, this guy, he's going to make me not really wealthy, but I won't have to worry about money for the next couple of years. But in the back of my mind, I still knew this guy is out to get me. In those days, over-the-counter stocks were traded in the pink sheets. Now, anyone from my generation who had anything to do with the stock market knows what the pink sheets. They were actually pink sheets which listed all over-the-counter stocks and those companies which were making markets in them. This was a thinly traded corporation, and there are 3 companies that were making a market in it. So I called the first one, blah, blah, blah. I said, tell me, this is off the record, but you know anything about Joe Puglisi? And the guy said, I don't know what you're talking about. You want to sell it? This is what we're willing to buy it for. Okay, call the next guy, he tells me the same thing. I call the third guy, and he tells me, he said, Steve, this is strictly off the record, and if it ever comes to push and shove, I will say that this conversation never took place. But the restricted securities, he's an insider. If you sell his securities, I guarantee you're going to sit in jail.
Oh.
Yeah, ad kadei kach. Yeah. So I sent them back the securities post haste, and Baruch Hashem, I didn't fall for it.
Why do you think this guy was out to get you?
Well, he was out to get anyone who would sell these securities. It was illegal to sell them since he was an insider, and they were restricted actually for 10 years.
Wow.
But whatever.
So how much money did you turn down by not going through with this?
How much money? Well, that's a good question. I don't know. At least $10,000, which I bought a house in Staten Island that year for $32,000, and it's recently gone for $500,000. People tell me. So a dollar was a dollar in those days. I don't know what it is today. Anyway, at the end of '67, the bottom fell out of the market, and Steve Rappaport is out on the street. Bunch of little kids, and what am I going to do? So one of my kind neighbors told me, first I had an opportunity. One of my neighbors told me about someone who had a silver plating business, and he was looking to take someone in who would eventually buy the business. So sounded good. I went down. They were interested in me. I spent a week or two going over everything. Not that I knew anything about really finances, but I was interested in the process itself, the silver plating process. And first thing I told them, I said, "Look, I'm a Sabbath observer, so I don't work on Saturday." So the Jewish guys, they said, "No, Steve, no problem whatsoever. We don't work on Saturday. We close down. We close down on Friday. Blah blah blah." Okay, and they were going to start me at $300 a week, which was a princely sum. Wow, that was really big money. So I spent another week or so looking around, working with people on the production floor. And then we had another meeting, and at that point they said, Steve, we want to, you're really good, you're getting to know the line, and we've decided to make a bigger offer, $400 a week. And so at that point I said, wow, what? And they said, but there's a little problem which we wanted to discuss, and that is that we realize during the winter, Saturday Shabbos comes in at 4 o'clock, 4:30. It takes 2-3 hours to shut the production line, which means that actually we're here till Friday night. So I knew at that point that was the end of the story, and I was back on the street. So another acquaintance of mine, and that we were living on Staten Island. We had a wonderful life there. We were among the group that founded the Young Israel. So a friend of mine said, "Look, I have a friend that have a small business, and they're looking to take someone in as a salesman." Great. So I went for an interview. It was a father-son operation. There wasn't even a secretary. It was on East 5th Street in the village, East Village, I guess it was called. But at that time, there was a shul on the block still operating, and there were Yidden there, or a lot of Yidden there, a lot of other kinds of people, though. There were some bad people there. Anyway, so
Did you meet the mafia? Any mafiosos you met over there?
not Hell's Angels was 1 block away, and I always made it my business not to walk down that street, because these guys, you didn't want to fool around with them. They were all about 300 pounds, and they were very terrifying looking.
Who are these people? Hell's Angels?
Hell's Angels, you're not familiar with it. A very famous motorcycle gang. I don't know if they're still, whatever. So they offered me $175 a week to start off as a stock boy salesman. Now, let me explain what a stock boy is, because a stock boy can be 17 years old, or it can be 77 years old. It's the person who puts together the orders, whatever they may be in the particular business. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I have to put bread on the table, and I took the job. As I said, it was a father-son operation, and I kind of no one really knew exactly how to go about selling anything, including myself. I knew a little bit about sales, but in this particular, we were selling to the garment industry, pins, clips, tags, all kinds of disposables. Let's call them disposables. So I remember Dave, my boss. He said, "Steve, tomorrow. We'll go out. I'll show you the whole sprech." Anyway, so I was standing with him, and he was talking to someone, and I didn't know what in the world he was saying. And he said, "Steve, you got the idea?" I said, "Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dave." So the next day, they sent me out. At that time, there were 100, 200, 300 little garment production companies, we'll call them companies, starting from the lower, all the way down in the Lower East Side, all the way to West 34th Street. So they sent me out with a small catalog and a price list, blah, blah, blah. So I slowly developed a sales technique. And then, of course, I had to be back at a certain time to put all the orders together. We sent them out by either UPS, postal, or even truck if it was a big order. Um, so my method was really very simple, and it's something that I carried on to even to this day. For some reason, I've never been successful in training people in the method. It's so simple, and yet most people I've tried to work with never caught on, and that is you've got to build up a long-term relationship with a client. So how do you do it? You do it very, very slowly. I would go, let's say, to a garment manufacturer. I don't know, ladies' sportswear, and I'd ask the secretary, "Can I see the buyer?" 9 times out of 10, forget it. But I would leave my brochure. Then I'd come back to the office. I had a little index card with the name of the guy, and now I had the guy's name and the name of the company. And then I would put in my Yoman, uh, my diary, go back in 2 weeks. So I'd go back in 2 weeks, and probably I would have to go through the same thing. But by the third time I would go, and 2 weeks after that, the secretary already recognized me. And usually 9 times out of 10, after 2 or 3 months, I got in to see the buyer. And again, no pressure, just telling him, look, we can supply you with X, Y, Z, and this is our price list, blah, blah, blah. And I would go back to him, call him on the phone, never pushy, never pushy. And eventually the guy would need something quickly, and we'd make a quick delivery. And that's how I built up the business.
So what precipitated you to move to Israel?
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, so let me jumpstart. So yeah, by 1975, the company had grown from father, son, and me to I'd say about we must have had 30, at least 30 people working. We moved a couple of times. We had a big warehouse in the Greenpoint area. I could tell mafia stories, but
what exactly was the business again?
We sold clips, tags, ticketing systems. By this time now it's increased. Elastics, all kinds of stuff like that to garment manufacturers. Now at that time, in the late 60s, most garment manufacturing was still done in good old USA. We had a lot of places had moved out of Manhattan, and they had gone to to New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and the big guys were even going down south. Things were spreading out, but it was still in continental USA. And every year there was a trade show which would take over a whole city. All the hotel rooms. It's called the Bobbin Show. I don't know if it still exists. Anything to do with the garment industry was on display, and we'd get printout lead books afterwards explaining who was there, what was their position, the phone numbers, the emails. I don't know if they existed at that time. I don't think they did. Again, I'd work on it the same plodding way that I built up face to face. I was doing all kinds of, I was doing business all over America. I still remember I had a big shirt manufacturer in Mississippi, a Jewish guy, or at least the guy who ran the plant was a Jewish guy. and he really wanted me to come down. I had to do some traveling, but I tried to keep it in check. And I said, I said, Sam, I said, you have to understand. I said, I eat only kosher food. So he said, his phone goes dead for half a minute. He says, Steve, you come down here, you're going to forget about all that stuff. So, but anyway, that's what it was like. I remember I even took a trip to Puerto Rico. There was some big guys manufacturing there. So by 1975, the company had grown exponentially, really. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am not a businessman. My boss at the company, the Trapper family, they are fantastic business people, and they're very straight. One of the early things my boss and his father told me was, Steve, we never want to be accused of doing anything underhanded and because we're Jews. So we kept that. We ran exceedingly straight. Everything was straight. Everything was above board. Dave, my boss, was and probably still is a fantastic businessman. I mean, we did things that in 1970 we took in a guy as a partner. He was a partner until recently. What's his name? He's in the art school, and he's one of the people, one of the big givers. Anyway, and he sold hangers and clips and Scotch tape to mom and pop stores. So we took over that business, and Dave figured that we could do this on a wide scale. They printed up 250,000 catalogs, sent it to every retail store in America, and from that moment on, the phones never stopped ringing. And then the company just kept on morphing, and I had nothing to do with that end of it. I was the sales manager. I was in charge of the salesmen, and
I want to focus on your life and your perspective.
So then just one point. So then by 1975, I was making Baruch Hashem big money. In those days, it was big money.
Can I ask how much you were making on a yearly salary?
I went from $175 a week to $600 a week. Now, $600 a week in the early 70s, it's probably at least $3,000 a week, maybe double that. And so I had a very comfortable life.
So you're making like present day over $100,000 a year.
Oh yeah, much, yeah. Yes.
Did you have a nice house in America?
We had a beautiful home in Staten Island. My wife still misses it.
You had a swimming pool?
No, we didn't have a swimming pool. No.
You had any additional perks?
My daughter has a swimming pool. She lives in Muncie, but no.
Okay.
Additional perks? No, I just had a very, again.
What were your hours?
My hours were. Oh, that's an interesting question. My hours were originally I was supposed to be 9 to 5, but the first 2 years I always came in about 8:15. And it was a schlep from Staten Island to, but anyway, and then as my position grew, anyway, let's say 9 to 5. Okay. And I didn't. Dave and his father, they came in every Sunday. They had to make. I never came in. I was never asked to make business decisions. Sales questions, I was asked, but then so in '75 I said, honey, I told my wife, I said, let's cut it here and let's go to Israel. And
what was your wife's feelings about that? She was on board with that?
No, she no, not at all. She totally thought that I had lost whatever mental capacity I had.
She was waiting for the swimming pool.
Yeah, no, she thought I was really way. She never believed it for a minute. I said, look, honey, I said, anything you want, we'll go out, we'll buy it, and we'll take it with us. And to the last moment, she just thought I was fantasizing. But eventually, we had, I think we had, Kenai and her, about 6 kids at that time, little ones.
How many kids do you have in total?
Eight living children, yeah.
8, okay.
So, 8, and they're adult children, and they all have children.
Oh, for sure, very nice.
Yeah. So,
so did they have like a nefesh b'nefesh? How did it work?
No, nothing. No. There was nothing like that at all. There was someone from the Jewish agency who was my mentor, quote unquote, and guided us. A nice guy. I still remember he came the day we moved out of our house in Staten Island. There must have been 1,000 hangers on the floor in the garage, and the guy took one.
Because you had a lot of suits.
Yeah, whatever. And the guy. He was a very nice guy. He took a look at it, and tears started coming out. He said, "Steve, he said, what are you doing with this? You gonna throw away these hangers? You know how much a hanger costs in Israel?" So in those
But
days,
what was your motivation? Like, why did you want it? Was the spiritual motivation you wanted with Israel?
It was. I guess it was spiritual motivation.
Had you ever been in Israel prior to that?
Yes. Okay, because 3 days after we got married in '65, we came to Eretz Israel. We went through Sachnut, had a program called Shirut La'am, Service to the People. We were the only married couple, and maybe there were 1 or 2 other from people in the group. And we came, during that period of time. Unfortunately, my father passed away. Anyway, we were in Israel for about 10 months. It was, again, everything was so. It was before the 6-Day War. I mean, to go from Yerushalayim to Tel Aviv was quite a trip. You had to go through Abu Ghosh, the main road. That's why Rehov HaShalom is, and the road ran through Abu Ghosh. Everything was.
Were you planning on staying in 1965 or you were just
76?
Well, I'm saying you said you went for 10 months after you got married.
No, I wasn't planning.
You weren't planning on staying.
No, not at all. We came back to America and let's see, after Pesach in 1966, before the 6-Day War, and then blah blah blah. This work I already gave you some insight into what I was doing in America. And then I had the whole thing. We were members of a group that started a Moshav. This was
when you moved here, when you made Aliyah.
Yeah.
Was it hard to make Aliyah? Was there a lot of bureaucracy? Was it difficult, or you just had to fill out some paperwork? And what was like? I know I personally made Aliyah in 2015. And it was pretty simple, actually. I mean, I had to go to Manhattan a couple times and meet with the Nefesh members over there, but they pretty much took care of everything. And I know Nefesh didn't exist in your time, so
right.
Was it difficult to make
From what
Aliyah?
I remember, it was not difficult at all. We were in a group that settled in Moshav Shitufi, if you know what that is.
Where is that, in the central?
This Moshav Shitufi was in Gush Etzion. It was Elazar. Today Elazar is 600-700 families, and it's a yuppie community and whatever. But anyway, so when we settled there, we were quote unquote real pioneers, blah blah blah. And
but what was inside of you that your wife didn't want to go, apparently?
Correct.
And you were so dedicated. I mean, you must have been really really wanted to move to Israel if you were able to convince your wife. Because I'll tell you the truth, I mean, I just went back to America for Pesach now, and I was born in America, and I raised in America, and I moved here 8 years ago. I got married about 6 years ago to my wife, and I live here. She grew up here in Tulsa, and so we live here. But I went back for Pesach. I said to my wife, I want to stay in America. I want to stay in America. She said, no way. My family lives in Israel, and that's where we are right now. So we came back to Israel, but you obviously had. Where did it come from? Like
I never felt at home in America. Why? I don't know. I grew up in a German Italian neighborhood in Queens. I was a fat kid, but I could run fast, and I just felt that this is not the place for me.
it was because there was a lot of non-Jews there, or it was because the materialism.
Where I grew up, there weren't any Jews in that neighborhood.
What type of background are you from? You're a traditional,
traditional,
Orthodox?
I'd say. No, not Orthodox.
Not Orthodox, traditional.
No, not at all.
So you must have over the years, at this point when you were making Aliyah, you were Orthodox.
I tell you what, the joke between me and my wife goes like this. We started going out. I was in college. She was in college, and we were introduced by a cousin of mine who we were very close to. So we started going out, but she wouldn't go out on Friday night. So the joke was, I figured she must have a Friday night boyfriend, She wants to go.
And you
outside.
still would want to go out if she had a Friday night boyfriend.
I know, things were different. It was more of a joke than serious.
I see, I understand. Yeah.
So then I started on the road. It was a long, slow road, but Baruch Hashem.
So your wife brought you along more.
Yeah,
more so.
my wife brought me along.
What's your wife's background? She also grew up traditional, or she grew
traditional?
Up... She did also.
She was a Shomer Shabbos girl. And her mother actually worked on West 34th Street in the Children's Wear building, and it was, in those days everyone worked on Shabbos, but she worked out a deal with not that she knew very much, but she knew I can't work on Shabbos. And
so now you're making Aliyah in 1976.
Yeah.
You're both of you Orthodox.
Correct.
You were not part of the, I guess, ultra-Orthodox. You were
Correct.
more centrist. You're more modern Orthodox. You classify it now, the Tilumi or something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So were you Zionistic?
I still am inside.
Was there an aspect of you besides the spiritual aspect of, living the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael?
Absolutely.
There's also a Zionistic aspect.
Absolutely. Anyway.
So you celebrate Independence Day here.
Correct.
Good. Very good.
Yeah. So, anyway, so here I am. We're in Eretz Yisrael. I figured, my Parnassa worries are over because we all get a stipend, a monthly stipend from the Jewish Agency, blah, 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 and then we set up all kinds of there were all kinds of different little things going on. I worked in the chemical laboratory. We had a chemical laboratory. We were trying to, on the Moshav, I was there for 2 years, we were trying to produce a red food dye from grape skin waste. And, anyway, we put in 2 years of hard work. It never really came to fruition. But anyway, after 2 years also, the place got on my wife's nerves. We all had to use the same dentist and the same this, and there were a lot of restrictions. Also, if anyone knows Gush Etzion, it's very windy, and Elazar is on a raised area. It's very windy there and cold.
Was it dangerous at that point? Were there a lot of
No, it was a totally different feeling. I used to go into Beit Lechem, Hebron. I went all over the West Bank. I had a weapon with me, but I really never thought twice about it. It was just it was natural. So we were there for 2 years, and then Pitom we left. We heard about Telstone. It was it fit our needs. It was a very small place. It was less than 60 families, maybe even much less than 60 families, and the price was right. We got a beautiful apartment for.
This is the apartment that you bought, or?
Well, actually, it was one up,
Okay.
but and every so. At that time, there were quite a few Kippah people, and also there were quite a few Holocaust survivors. And
Were you wearing a knit kippah?
I was wearing a Kippah, and I liked the place. I could say I even fell in love with it. It was very, it was semi-rural. Trees, forests, all kind of deer, all kinds of. It was a nice place, and the people were very nice. Rav Gifterzal was here that first year that I was here, and that was a wonderful experience for me and my wife. Okay, but
did you know that he was like considered a big rabbi at that point?
Not really.
He just appeared on the scene, and you didn't know till years later that it was Rabbi Gifter.
Well, no, not years later, but
I mean that
well
he was
within the year I knew it.
Oh.
He was really something special. He was extremely approachable. He had any shayla.
Where did he live exactly? He lived.
You know where the Rav lived, Rav Shulman.
He lived around Shulman's apartment.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. The current rabbi of Telstone.
Yeah.
Occupies the same apartment that Rabbi Gifter did.
Now I need to make a parnasa though. You know, I left the protection of the Moshav, and
how were your finances doing at that time?
I still had some money left over
from America, some
even
savings.
though we'll get to that point because that very quickly went down the drain. But we'll get to that. You know the old joke: how to make a fortune in Israel, bring a small fortune, bring a big one.
Right.
So here I am. What am I going to do? I'm still in contact with my old company, and they said, Steve, do a business survey, and we'll set you up. We'll send you a container of goods, and set yourself up. So I did a market research, and I came to the conclusion at that time that all the business I could do in Israel, or whatever, would be the equivalent of one of my middle-size to larger-size clients in America. So it just didn't pay. So I said, thanks a lot, guys, but it's just not here yet, or it's not here. So what am I going to do? I have to try to make good. The Eibishter was very good to me. Yeah. Somehow I'm a little unclear. I got into mainly tourist giftware, mainly olive wood stuff, and I started producing very nice olive wood. I still have all kinds of samples. Olive wood miniature sets, tea sets, and all kinds of things. I didn't go into any of the Christian stuff. I asked the Shaila of Rav Gusman, and he told me basically stay away from it, and so I followed his advice. I had you would say a partner. I had a Christian guy, a reborn Christian guy who had an inn with Christian bookstores in America. He told me there were thousands of them. I have no idea. And so we developed a line, and we were doing very well. But again, I'm not a business person, so I was very sloppy with the finances, and I didn't keep things under control. And then eventually he wanted me to do some Christian stuff, and I can't do it, but I think you ought to go to either X or Y. They can do it for you. But like many people, he figured, no, what do I need a middleman for? So he went to Beit Lechem, which I knew pretty well. He went to Beit Lechem, and they did a job on him. And he went bankrupt, and he kind of dragged me down with him. And
Wait, Bethlehem, the Arabs. You
yeah,
got involved with the Arabs.
Yeah, I also was involved with Arabs, but
So what does that mean? They dragged him down.
He was supposed to, in order for him to get this stuff into the stores, he had to be he had to ship out by August, and early August, and they didn't deliver to him till late September, and by that time it was too late, and everyone canceled out on him, and he had ordered a lot of stuff from me, which he couldn't pay for, and also at the same time, I discovered that one of my Israeli manufacturers was simply duplicating all my ideas and presenting them as his own.
What exactly were you selling?
Yeah, anything, olive wood pictures, plates, just any little thing, ashtrays, cigarette lighters, pen holders, a million miniature tea sets were very popular, all kinds of, and I found one day I walked into this guy's showroom and I saw he had my whole line. And anyway, things weren't going so well at that point. So I came home. I said, you know, honey, I said, we're going to close down the business. And then that's...
so that was your own business?
That was my own business. And
it was not successful.
It was not successful. I managed to lose all the money that I had accumulated.
In America.
In America.
So now you're starting from the ground again.
Yeah, now I'm starting fresh. I'm in my late 30s already, and so what am I going to do? Well, what happened was, and everyone should pay attention to this, when you have an opportunity and you think it's a possible opportunity, go for it. So what happened was, one of my neighbors, who I'm still very friendly with, although he spends most of his time in America now, one of his businesses was a window washing route. So he said, you know, Steve, I'll show you how to do it, and you know, take it for a year, take all the money, and at the end of the year, I'll take it back. But meanwhile, you'll have an income. So he said, yeah, why not? So I'm a little bit of a street person. I like to be on the outside. So I started off, it was just me doing windows, and then I had started taking in workers. So I built up the business. At the end of the year, what am I going to do? I have to return it. So I think we went to Rav Scheinberg's house. Anyway, and so he poskined that I had to give back everything except, and I had to give back even all places that I had picked up that were on the quote unquote on the route, but those places which were off the route, I could keep. So okay, so then here again I'm starting again, and Baruch Hashem, I built that up, or it got built up, and as a matter of fact, I ended up buying all the routes from my friend. He gave me a very generous payout scheme, and things were going very well. We were cleaning almost all the windows of all. We had around 120 stores in Yerushalayim, and everything seemed to be going very well. And then bang, the Intifada comes.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who remembers what the Intifada, first Intifada, that's ended, it was a time where there was no business in Yerushalayim, and basically the window washing business dried up, but at that point I had started already to go into office cleaning. So it was the time Cloud Building opened up, and we one we got
Cloud,
the
you mean the HMO, Cloud?
the Cloud Building on Yaffo. You know Cloud Building,
Cloud
Yaffo and
Healthcare?
Kika. No, it's a. At that time, it was the big skyscraper in Yerushalayim, but today it's called Cloud Building.
Okay.
It's on Yaffo and what's it called? Anyway, so we were doing all the offices there, and from there and eventually that business became central to Baruch Hashem, to my parnasa, and I wasn't a good businessman, but I did two things which anyone who goes into business here in Israel, probably in America, is a must: a good accountant and a good lawyer. Without a good accountant, and my accountant, Chaim Hurt, this guy is so straight. Maybe he's retired by now. He never really gave me business advice, but he did everything right. And because of that, I had very little problem. I had very few problems with the tax people. Here, I think in America too, but here there are two. There's income tax and there's the sales tax. Sales tax here today is 17%, very, very high. It's been as high as 18% a couple of years ago. They lowered it to 17%. That you must give that money that you collect over. I was a small business, so once every 2 months. If you don't give it over on time, you're I wouldn't say you're a walking dead man, but you're in big trouble. It happened to me one time that I was late, and it took me 3 years to get the tax people off my case, and it cost me a lot of money. And
What does it mean off your case? What were they doing to you there?
they were calling me up. My accountant had to give them all kinds of special reports about me. It was an unpleasant situation.
Mm-hmm.
But after 3 years, I was able to. I got retrieve my good name, and from that point on, I didn't have any problems with the sales tax end of it. You have to be very careful in Israel to give bills, cheshboniot. If you work black, there's always a danger. Or I was stopped a few times because I would be going around with a crew to do office cleaning and windows and private homes, and twice I was stopped, and but I always was very careful to carry with me my Pinchas Cheshboniot, my billing book. That's it, my billing book.
Mm-hmm.
And blah blah blah. I was careful, and any problems I had, I always just told the tax people, speak to my accountant. One time I did get in trouble with the income tax people. I started a business. Someone suggested to me that we do placemats for restaurants with little games and advertisements and funny stories, and we would offer it to restaurants as a freebie. We'll have your name is on it, and we would sell advertising on the sheets. I don't know. it was a little too complicated for me. It never really worked out, and I never did anything except I made maybe I made a mistake that I opened up a file with the tax people. Now, I never made any claims. I never. So they started sending me bills, and my accountant would. Every 2 or 3 years, I'd get a letter from them, a threatening letter. My accountant would send them an official letter that the company had never actually done anything. But after a while, the demands from the tax people kept on building up. And my accountant said, "Look, Steve, you're right. You never did anything with it. You never made a dime. You never gave a bill out. But my advice is pay it, because if you don't pay it, they're just going to keep on bothering and hounding you, and you never know where it's going to go. If you have to go to tax court, you never know where it's going to end up." So I paid it. Baruch Hashem, I paid at the end. I paid it, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. But I remember there was in the office, in the tax office. I was having a hard time, but there was a very nice young Haredi lady, and she said, "Look," she said, "pay it, and I'm giving you another form. Pay this other form for, I don't know, it's like $40 the other form." And she said, "Pay it, and I guarantee you it will never bother you again." And that's exactly what happened. So if you're doing business in Israel, you have to be very straight. I'm telling you right now. And if you're not, eventually what happens is they catch up to you. I sold my business in 2015, and the person I sold it to, a nice guy, he overexpanded. He had different businesses. He overexpanded. He had very, I don't know, maybe just bad mazel, and just eventually he had to leave the country. This is a story with a few people that I've been acquainted with over the years, that for various reasons they had problems with the tax people, and it can be a very, very difficult situation. They could take away your house, they put a freeze to take away your passport and things like that, and they put you in a very difficult situation. So my advice, anyone who's going to do business in Israel, is good accountant, a good lawyer, be straight.
So you're saying that in America you can get away with more than in Israel?
I don't know.
Because you didn't have your own business in America.
Correct.
You worked for somebody else.
Correct. I don't know. But I know that here you have to be very, very careful. Just to end off so here I am, office cleaning, and then the window cleaning had picked up a little bit again. People started, and they had always been asking me, "Well, why do you do our carpets? Do the old carpets clean the carpets in the office 2 or 3 times a year." So I didn't know the first thing about it. I remember my first. So I bought some equipment, and not being so bright, I figured, So the first big job we got was in a kosher Chinese restaurant. Yeah. Moshe Peking it was called.
That's in America, no?
No, it's here.
Moshe Peking is in Israel? My father used to talk about Moshe Peking
Yeah, I'm telling
in America. It was a franchise?
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it was called Moshe Peking. I'm talking at least 35, maybe 40 years ago.
Okay.
35 years ago at least. So this guy, the owner was a guy named Yaakov. I can't think of his last name. Very nice guy. So I had a whole crew. I had 5 guys in there, and we wet the carpet down. We must have had an inch of water on the carpet, and we had a couple of thousand cockroaches who, who breathed their last. And about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, going over with a heavy-duty rotary brush and stuff like that. Yaakov, the guy, says, Steve, he says, how are you going to get the water out? So at that moment, I had an epiphany. How am I going to get the water out? Because I wasn't so bright. He said, maybe you need a wet vac kind of setup. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I really needed a big industrial wet vac, which eventually I had 2 of them, but at that time I didn't. And he said, I have one of those. I said, wow, could you show me how to use it?
But he's the owner of the restaurant.
Right. He's the owner of the
restaurant. And he's showing you how to do something that you're getting paid for. He's paying you to do.
And the beautiful part of it, we finished about 5 in the morning. And the beautiful part of it, he's actually paid me because I felt like a total idiot. But again, mainly through trial and error, for some, I learned the technique and I developed more or less my own technique. And the last 10, 15 years in business, most of it revolved around carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning in people's homes. And we did a lot of advertising. And, here's a magnet, for instance. Every job that we did.
See a report. The experts in cleaning carpets and upholstery. Mechir hanachon. 30 years of experience. 30 years of experience. What was the mechir hanachon? What was the right price that you were charging? I'll tell you, I have carpet in my bedroom and I get it cleaned about 3 times a year. The person charges me, because it's a small room, but the minimum charge for coming over, he charged me 700 shekel.
That's a very high price.
But that's the minimum, because they would get charge me 700 shekel for a bigger room, but that's the size of my room. They have to come over. How much would you charge for a room that's about 12 square meters? 700 shekels is about $200. How much would you charge? The right price. What's the right price? What would be the right price that you would charge me?
Well, since the truth of the matter is, I have someone in Telstone who I give all my business to. Then I just do it because I want to.
Well, what would be the price? I would call you up. How much would you tell me?
I'm out of the business. I'm very hesitant to really give you a price.
Why?
Okay. I have a funny story though. I'll tell you, right? Is this the magnet? I went through different different periods with different magnets. That I always left a magnet on the refrigerator, and I used to just something so simple like that. I got so much business by just putting. Before I left, I always made sure I put a magnet or 2 on the refrigerator, and 10, 20 years later, I was still getting calls from people. We saw this magnet on the refrigerator. You do this kind of stuff? Yeah.
Do people still call you today? You said you sold the bill. Even today. This morning you got a call.
I get called. I'm out of the business since 2015. I am still getting calls.
What do you say when they call you?
I say, thank you very much. There's a nice guy named Shlomo Levi. I trained him myself.
The guy who sells the cholent over here?
No. There are 2 Shlomo Levis. There's a cholent guy, and then there's another guy named Shlomo Levi. A little older guy, but old, he's 50s. But I got, here's a funny story. I got a call from the YMCA in town, and they asked me to give them a price on cleaning their chairs. They have a theater, an amphitheater, whatever you call it, with big collapsing chairs, like a movie theater chairs. And I gave them a price, and at that time this is not the magnet. At that time I had a magnet which said Jewish workers only. So here I'm sitting with all these, with the YMCA. Obviously, it's a Christian organization, and mainly Arab. And here I'm sitting in the office, and they see my magnet. It says Jewish workers only. So everyone started laughing. It was quite hilarious.
You were sitting with Christians or Arabs or both?
They were Christian Arabs.
Christian Arabs.
And then, but there was a whole group.
And they were okay with that?
Yeah. And they thought it was ridiculous, just funny. I used to do also.
They weren't offended by that?
No, well, maybe they were, but they didn't say anything. I changed my magnet right after that. So.
What did it say after? You just deleted a Jewish only?
Yeah, Jewish workers only. So actually, I used to do almost every year. There's a called Narcus. If you know the street, it's a small street. There's a big Baptist church. So again, every year they would call us in to do the carpets. We used to, Baruch Hashem, we had again, it was so simple. Any job I got, I took down the particulars. 3 months after we did the work, I'd call them up, ask them if they're happy with the work, if they needed anything else, and this way. But Israeli companies, on the whole, are not like this. I'll give you an example. 12 years ago, we bought 2 computers from a company. Not one time have they ever called me up and asked me, you think you could use it, change your computer, or you need this. It's so, I can't explain. The Israeli mentality is, but hopefully it's changed, is so different. There was a place, I bought a couple of refrigerators years ago. You think they would call up and say, you've had these refrigerators for, 5 years, 10 years. Never. And it's straight down the line. They're very innovative here, but when it comes to simple business, simple sales tactics, they're a zero. They're an absolute zero.
Well, do you think it has something to do with the fact that customer service here is awful and is very different than from America, where basically they're there to service the customer, and here as a customer you're basically always wrong and they never try to help you, and they make it as difficult as like are you buying this from me?
It's just an entitlement. It's a different attitude. I have a water machine. It was very expensive. They give you a 3-year payout on it. Okay, why not? And I have a service contract with them, which isn't. I just want to talk about service contracts, and sometimes if I have a problem, it can take 2 or 3 weeks to get someone to come down and take care of it. But early on in the game in my cleaning business, I was told, Steve, you must, I'm talking 45 years ago, you have to take third-party insurance. Has to show them something happens, someone gets hurt, expensive equipment gets broken, whatever it is, you need 30 parts. So I go to a very nice guy, an insurance agent, and first year I paid I remember it was $1,500, and I paid it, and I didn't have any claims. The second year, we were in one of the offices in Cloud Building. The keyboard in 1980, 1981. It's hard to believe, $300 for a computer keyboard, which really could do very little in comparison with today's $20 or $25 keyboard does. But anyway, okay, so she was it was dirty, blah blah blah. Anyway, it went up in smoke, and I went to my insurance agent, And I said, Moshe, I have this claim. I have to give it $300 to cover the cost of a new keyboard, and I have insurance. How do we go about doing the whole thing? So that point, he said, no problem, Steve. At that point, he gave me about 20 sheets of single line paper and instructions, and I said, wait, and he said, oh yeah, he started off by saying, you have $100 deductible. I said, okay, $200 is better than nothing. So he said, well, here, you fill out these 10 sheets, and have your client fill out the other 10 sheets, and then we'll give it into to the claims department, and they'll make a decision in 2 or 3 months. So at that point, they said, Moshe, you're a really nice guy, but take all the paper, throw it away, do anything you want, and I'm canceling the policy as of today. And that's what I did. And 35, 40 years in business, I saved myself a fortune in money. Well, I was also lucky. I know the person who eventually sold the business to in 2015. He was hit with some big claims, but once or twice once a year maybe, someone would have a complaint, and I would take off 100 or 200 shekels off the bill, and that was it.
Let me ask you a question. As
Yeah.
you were in the business world in America. You lived here since 1976, and you've been working here for many years. In 2015, you stopped. You
Right.
sold the business. You're not working right now,
Correct.
right? So, I just wanted to talk about general in terms of living in Israel versus living in America. The reason that you moved to Israel was purely a spiritual one, a Zionistic one, maybe a combination of
It's
both.
a combination.
Okay, so do you feel like you miss anything about America, or you've never looked back?
Do I miss anything about America? I've been back a few times. I like to go to Costco, and look around. But no, I'm no, I'm
You're
very
saying
happy here. I'd like to see more of Eretz Israel. I have to go back every few years, health permitting, of course, because I have 5 adult children here and 3 adult children there. So, for various celebrations, we married, weddings of grandchildren, things like that. But again,
were you successful here financially? You had this business for 15 years, this cleaning and upholstery business, clean carpets, upholstery.
well, it depends.
Was it a success? Was it a success, or were you
Yeah.
more successful in America?
No, I mean, if you're talking dollars and cents, I was much more successful in America in terms of dollars and cents, and I felt I was on a wild trajectory in America, and the company I was with, we were growing so fast and so serious, and
You just
I said,
stopped
I,
in the
th-
middle.
I just thought, I just had a gut feeling that I'm not going to survive this.
Why wouldn't you survive it? What do you mean? You get too into the materialism and you forget about Judaism? Is that what you're
Not forget
afraid of?
about Judaism, but the let's call it the materialism.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, my old company. I visited every time I went to, not the last time, but when I used to go to America once every few years, I would always visit my old company, and just to schmooze with them.
Still going on, your old company? It's still an active company?
Well, I don't know if they're billions, but I mean, they have, again, I'm not a business person, but I know, for instance, they have a warehouse in Chicago, 600,000 square foot warehouse. I'm told that's a pretty big size.
What's the name of the company?
Well, it's gone through many different.
What's it called right now?
Coda Resources.
Coda Resources?
Yeah.
Is it a publicly traded company?
No. It's a private company. If you really want to find out more about it, the principals wrote a book called Growing Up Trapper, and then I added something and blah blah blah. But I'll give you an example. They're business people, and somehow they've been able to pass the business over to their children and grandchildren and step aside, and because most family businesses go down the drain eventually because of differences in the family and so on. But I went back in 2006. My youngest son was being married. He lives in Clifton, New Jersey. Lives in anyway. So I went back in 2006 before the wedding, and blah blah blah. Figured I'd raise some money also for the wedding. You asked me about. I've always, since I came to Eretz HaKodesh, Baruch Hashem, we made a panasa. We made it, Did we make real money? No.
But you survived. You made
We
enough to
survived. Yeah. We survived. Baruch Hashem, we had a lot of mazel. We survived. I worked hard. But again, my accountant did everything right. My wife was part of the company, so eventually when we did retire, we got maximum benefits. Anyway, I'll tell you. So I just want to maybe end even with this story. 2006, I went back, and at that time, the company was located in a black neighborhood in Brooklyn. So I remember I said, "No, it's Dolly. I'm going to come down and schmooze with you guys." He says, "How are you coming down?" I said, "I'm going to take the subway." He says, "No, Steve, you don't take the subway, do you?" "No, don't." I said, "Relax, I'm taking the subway." Which was an interesting experience because this was 2006. I'm on the train, and then the black high school kids get on, and they're all dancing around. And then the Puerto Rican kids, they're all dancing around. The Chinese kids get on. What do? They sit down and open up their school books. I said, wow. I was blown. I said, they're going to take over. And people tell me the top 1 and 2 percentile in any university today are from Asiatics. Very nice people. Anyway, so they picked me up. The company picked me up the station, and at that time, the warehouse, which I had no idea, took up a whole city block. It was quite something. So they were very nice to me, and they invited Baruch Hashem, Mr. Trapper, who was the founder of the company and was one of the he was 96 years old. He was coming in almost every day, he told me, and he looked great. 96 years old. He said, "Look, Steve, what am I going to do? Sit home and watch television?" I come in, I speak to clients. Great idea. So they had, this is the story, they had gotten an order for 1 million of these. What are these? What do you call these? Floss sticks. Floss sticks, okay. And the price on the 1 million was predicated on, if it went through the standards of this company, the next order was 100 million pieces. 100 million pieces. And they got the order for the 100 million pieces. So the board meeting that day was how are they going to put together everything because you have to buy 500 pounds of floss and this and that. and they were doing it in China. Make a long story short, they and I was there, blah blah blah. They actually offered me a job.
And how old were you then?
I was what 60. I was in my early 60s, so they offered me a job.
They wanted you to relocate to America?
Yeah, and anyway, I don't know. Maybe it was just a Rahmanis job, but they offered me a good job, but I wisely turned it down, I think. So but now this is really what I'm going to say now is public knowledge because it's written in this book also. They actually have own the factory where they produce these. They own the land, which is very rare. Most people who do anything in China, they go to a Chinese company and Mr. Wang, can you make me 1 million of these? And they have something like 500 workers in this one factory, and they turn out over 400 million of these guys a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, so.
Oh, very special. Wow, it's amazing to see the difference between your experience in America and Israel.
It's totally different. And and today they're very good people. They're very big Bali Tzedakah, and yeah. So that's it. That's my life.
That's your life.
Not my. That's not
that's
my
your business life.
Yeah, not my inner life.
Not your family life.
Not my family life. And one of the things I always tried never to take the job home with me, and which. I think most business people, they're fixated all the time on their business. I was not that way. I came home, opened the door, said hello to my wife and kids, and I was in a different world. Went to Shiurim, learned, and that's it.
Well, it's very nice having you on. Thank you very much for your interesting stories and. Quite a fascinating life, and wish you well.
Thank you.
Until you're 120, you should continue getting a lot of nachas and enjoyment for your family.
I do. I have a wonderful family, and I enjoy very much living in Telstone, and I have a nice apartment, and
I guess you've gone a little more to the right over the years. Because Telstone is a pretty, ultra-Orthodox community.
Yeah, I would say yes, but I again, you notice I'm not wearing a white shirt, so right away I'm suspect.
I'm wearing a Polish shirt here in Telstone, so I'm also suspect. Also,
you're really suspect.
And I'm married.
You're over the line. But that's it. It's in life. To get a lot, you have to give a lot. And you have to. There are a lot of things that most things you're not really in control of. And it's as simple as that. My wife could probably tell a lot, but anyway.
All right, nice having you on. Very
nice.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. Be well and have a good week. All right, a formal handshake. All right, an honor to be with you. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Have a good one.